May 27, 1942. There's a sharp curve on the streets of Prague. An open-top black Mercedes, as it does every morning, is forced to slow down at this bend. Inside the car sits one of the coldest, most intelligent, and most feared men in the Third Reich. Even his own colleagues were wary of him. Hitler himself called him the man with the iron heart, and within the SS he was known by the nickname the Blonde Beast. He was one of the architects of the Holocaust. That morning, two young men were waiting for him at that curve. In their hands, a submachine gun, a hand grenade, and a single purpose to kill Reinhard Heydrich. This is the story of one of the boldest assassination operations in history, Operation Anthropoid. Reinhard Heydrich was born in 1904 in the German city of Halle, into a family of musicians. His father was an opera singer and composer, and his mother was also musically trained. Young Heydrich had a disciplined and cold childhood. He learned to play the violin and defense. His family was wrongly accused of having partial Jewish ancestry. He joined the German Navy. He was discharged in 1931 following a disciplinary scandal. Through his wife, he was introduced to the Nazi Party and Heinrich Himmler. Himmler rapidly promoted him. He became head of the Sicherheitsdienst. He even kept secret files on senior Nazi officials. During the Night of the Long Knives, he prepared lists of those marked for death. He later helped establish the Einsatzgruppen. He chaired the Wannsee Conference in 1942. He became the acting Reich protector of occupied Prague and earned the nickname the Butcher of Prague. At 38, he was one of the most dangerous figures in Nazi leadership. For that reason, the Czechoslovak government in exile decided he had to be eliminated. The Czechoslovak government in exile in London faced a serious problem. While occupied countries like Poland, Yugoslavia, and Greece had strong resistance movements, Czech territory remained relatively quiet. Czech factories were producing intensively for the Nazi war machine. It became necessary to prove to the Allies that Czechoslovakia was still a loyal ally. František Moravec began working on a bold plan: assassinate Reinhard Heydrich. The proposal gained the approval of Edvard Beneš. Britain's Special Operations Executive supported the mission. The operation received its code name Anthropoid. Preparations began in October 1941. Moravec selected men from nearly 2,000 exiled soldiers. The final choice fell on Joseph Gabzik and Jan Kubas. They trained for months, parachuting, weapons, explosives, close combat, and covert communication. Every lesson focused on a single objective: killing Reinhard Heydrich. On the night of December 28, 1941, the agents parachuted into occupied Czechoslovakia. They had more than 5 months to prepare. After reaching Prague, the agents went into hiding with the help of the local resistance network. Using false identities, safe houses, and secret meeting points, they managed to live undetected in the Nazi-controlled city for months. During this time, they studied Heydrich's daily routine step by step. What they learned was this: Heydrich was arrogantly overconfident. He believed no one would dare attack him. Every morning he traveled from his home outside the city to central Prague, accompanied only by his driver, without a serious security convoy. The agents identified a spot the car passed every day. A sharp bend in the Holosavas district forced the car to slow down. It was the ideal location for an assassination. The morning of May 27, 1942, was the time to act. At around 10:30 in the morning, Gabzik and Kubas took up their positions at the chosen bend. Gabzik waited with the British-made Sten submachine gun hidden under his coat. Kubas was ready with hand grenades. Joseph Walczak stood farther ahead, waiting to signal the approaching car. Heydrich's Mercedes appeared as usual and slowed to take the curve. This was the moment Gabzik had been waiting for. He pulled out his weapon, stepped in front of the car, and pulled the trigger. But at that exact moment, the gun jammed. The plan should have failed. As Heydrich reached for his pistol and his driver tried to accelerate away, Kubas stepped forward. He threw a specially modified hand grenade toward the car. The grenade landed beside the rear wheel. The explosion tore apart the car, sending fragments through the air and fatally wounding Heydrich. At first, Heydrich climbed out of the car and even attempted to pursue the assassins, but within minutes the pain became unbearable and he collapsed. A tram was stopped to take him to the hospital. Doctors initially believed he would survive, but hidden fragments from the damaged car caused a severe infection that developed into sepsis. On June 4, 1942, 8 days after the attack, Reinhard Heydrich died. Heydrich's death enraged the Nazi regime. Hitler saw it as a grave insult and immediately ordered reprisals. The Gestapo turned Prague upside down, searching for the assassins. Thousands of people were interrogated and arrested, but the most horrifying reprisal took place in the village of Lidis, which had no direct connection to the assassination. Nazi intelligence had wrongly linked the village to exiled Czech officers. On June 10, 1942, security forces raided the village. The The men were executed, the women were deported, the children separated, and Lidice was burned and erased from the map. A similar massacre followed in the village of Lekiki only weeks later. In total, more than 5,000 Czech citizens lost their lives because of Heydrich's death, one of history's costliest assassinations. So what happened to Gabzik and Kubis, the men who carried out the assassination? After the attack, with the help of the local resistance network, they hid in the crypt of the Orthodox Church of Saints Cyril and Methodius in central Prague. Several other agents were with them, but one member of the group, Karol Kurda, couldn't withstand the pressure. Fearing for his family's fate, he surrendered to the Gestapo and revealed the resistance network, the safe houses, and finally the church where the agents were hiding. In return, he received a large cash reward and a new identity. On June 18, 1942, hundreds of SS troops surrounded the church. After hours of fighting, the agents resisted until their ammunition was gone. With no escape left, they chose to take their own lives rather than be captured. Today, the church crypt remains a museum where visitors can still see the bullet marks left on its walls. Operation Anthropoid went down in history as the only successful high-level Nazi assassination organized by a government during the Second World War. While other resistance movements carried out attacks on senior officials, none matched the scale or symbolic impact of Anthropoid. Whether the operation achieved its true purpose remains debated. It strengthened the position of the Czechoslovak government in exile and contributed to the country's post-war future. But it also led to devastating reprisals that claimed thousands of innocent civilian lives. Following Heydrich's death, Operation Reinhard was named in his honor, and the Holocaust continued to expand with horrifying speed. Today, Gabzik and Kubis are remembered as national heroes in the Czech Republic. Their names live on through monuments, museums, and memorials, while their extraordinary mission continues to inspire books, documentaries, and films around the world. The story of Reinhard Heydrich sheds light on both the horrifying and the courageous events of one of the darkest periods in human history. On one side stood the cold-blooded architect of a regime responsible for the deaths of millions. On the other, two young men who, knowing they were almost certainly heading toward death, chose to stop him anyway. The assassination also sent a powerful message across occupied Europe. For millions living under Nazi rule, it proved that even the highest-ranking officials were not beyond reach. Fear had long been the regime's greatest weapon, but for a brief moment, that fear changed sides. The operation came at an unbearable cost. Entire communities paid the price, and the debate over whether the sacrifice was justified continues to this day. Historians still ask the same difficult question: can one act of resistance ever outweigh the lives lost in retaliation? There is no simple answer. Yet more than 80 years later, Operation Anthropoid is remembered not only because Reinhard Heydrich was killed, but because a handful of ordinary people accepted an impossible mission, knowing they would almost certainly never return. Their names survived long after the regime they fought had disappeared. This story reminds us of something important. The decisions that can change the course of history are often made in the most desperate circumstances by the most ordinary of people. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden stories behind history's greatest conflicts, don't forget to subscribe to Secrets of War. Every documentary on this channel is built from historical research, real events, and the extraordinary stories that history almost forgot. Until next time, because history still has many secrets waiting to be discovered.